My beloved child, something in your heart stirred last night, didn't it? A quiet shift, a subtle feeling you couldn't fully explain. Perhaps it arrived like a whisper in the silence, or like a thought that refused to leave your mind no matter how much you tried to focus on something else. You may have brushed it aside, telling yourself it was nothing. Yet deep down, a gentle awareness remained. That feeling was not random. Your intuition recognized a movement in the unseen currents surrounding your life. Someone connected to your story made a choice, one they have not yet found the courage to reveal. And while the world outside continues as if everything is normal, the truth has already begun its journey toward the surface. Don't skip this moment. Stay with me, because what is unfolding is far more meaningful than you realize. Listen carefully to the quiet space between your thoughts. That space is where clarity begins to form. The person you've been thinking about, the one whose energy keeps crossing your mind, has been standing at a crossroads longer than you know. For days, maybe even weeks, they have been carrying a decision within them like a sealed letter. On the outside, their words may have sounded ordinary. Their actions may have seemed unchanged. But inside, something shifted. A realization arrived when they least expected it. Perhaps it came late at night, when the world slowed down and honesty became impossible to avoid. Or perhaps it came during a simple moment, an ordinary conversation, a passing memory, a sudden awareness that things could not remain the same forever. In that instant, they chose a path. And even though you have not heard those words yet, the energy of that choice has already begun moving toward you. But here is the part most people never understand: truth rarely appears all at once. It rises slowly, like the first light of dawn. Before the sun becomes visible, the sky changes color. Before the truth is spoken, the atmosphere around it begins to shift. That subtle shift is exactly what you felt last night. Your awareness sensed that something important had begun unfolding behind the scenes. And the remarkable thing is this: your heart recognized it before your mind could explain it. Many people ignore these moments. They distract themselves, scroll past the feeling, or convince themselves it's imagination. But you didn't fully ignore it. A part of you paused. A part of you wondered. And that quiet pause is the reason you are here now, hearing these words at this exact moment. And here is where the story becomes even more intriguing. The choice your person made was not easy. It required them to look honestly at their own heart. It required them to step beyond comfort and face something they had been avoiding. For a long time, uncertainty surrounded their thoughts like fog on a quiet road. They hesitated. They questioned themselves. They wondered if speaking the truth would change everything. But eventually, the silence inside them became heavier than the fear of honesty. When that moment arrived, the decision formed clearly. They knew what they felt. They knew what needed to happen next. The only thing left was timing, the right moment to bring that hidden truth into the open. Right now, the world may still look unchanged from where you stand. Conversations may seem ordinary. Messages may feel routine. Yet beneath the surface, movement has already begun. Think of it like a river beneath frozen ground, quiet, steady, unstoppable. what was decided cannot remain hidden forever. The truth has a natural way of finding its path into the light, and when it does, the moment often feels both surprising and strangely familiar at the same time. That's because part of you already sensed it before it arrived. Something huge is waiting just beyond the horizon of this story. And if you stay till the end, you will understand why the feeling you had last night was not confusion, it was preparation. Now pause for a moment and breathe in the stillness around you. Because the next part of this unfolding story reveals why this choice matters so deeply for your path as well. What your person decided does not only affect them, it touches your journey too. The truth that is moving toward the light will open a door that has been quietly waiting in the background of your life. And the moment that door begins to open, many things that once felt unclear will suddenly make sense. So don't rush away from this moment. Stay present. The next step of this story is already closer than you think, and the revelation behind it may change the way you see everything that has been happening until now. Something unusual is already shifting in the invisible space between you and this person, even if nothing obvious has been said yet. Moments like this rarely arrive with loud announcements. Instead, they unfold quietly, almost gently, like a door opening in a silent hallway. What you sensed last night was the beginning of that opening. A ripple formed in the emotional connection that links your paths together. And once a ripple begins, it continues traveling until it reaches the shore of truth. Many people ignore these subtle waves when they first appear. They assume life is continuing exactly as before. But deep connections do not work that way. When someone makes a genuine internal choice, the energy of that choice begins moving outward long before the words follow. Right now, your person is standing in a delicate moment of reflection. Their mind keeps revisiting the decision they made, almost like replaying a scene from a story they know is about to become real. They are realizing that certain truths cannot stay hidden forever, especially when the heart begins asking for honesty. This realization did not arrive suddenly. It built slowly, layer by layer, through memories, conversations, and moments when your presence crossed their thoughts in ways they could not ignore. Something inside them became clearer with each passing day. They started recognizing that avoiding the truth was no longer easier than expressing it. In fact, silence began to feel heavier than speaking openly. And here is the fascinating part most people never see from the outside. When someone prepares to reveal an important truth, their inner world becomes very active. They imagine different possibilities. They wonder how the moment will unfold. They think about what might change afterward. Your person has been walking through these thoughts repeatedly, searching for the right way to express what they now know inside themselves. There is anticipation, but also a quiet seriousness about the moment that is coming. Because when the truth finally steps forward, it often reshapes the emotional landscape for both people involved. Yet the timing of such revelations is rarely rushed. Sometimes the heart needs a little space to align with courage. Your person understands that once the truth is spoken, the connection between you will move into a new phase. That awareness alone carries weight. It invites them to slow down, to choose their words carefully, and to make sure what they share comes from genuine clarity rather than impulse. This pause is not hesitation in the negative sense. It is the calm before sincerity finds its voice. It is the moment where someone gathers the courage to allow their inner truth to step into the open world. Meanwhile, you may notice subtle signals appearing in the days ahead. Perhaps a change in tone. Perhaps a conversation that feels slightly deeper than usual. Maybe even a moment of silence that carries more meaning than words. These small details are often the first hints that something important is approaching. Life has a remarkable way of preparing both people before a meaningful conversation takes place. It creates little windows of awareness, tiny pauses where intuition gently whispers that something significant is near. But there is another reason you felt that quiet shift last night, and it has everything to do with your own awareness. Your intuition is stronger than you realize. When someone connected to your path makes an important decision involving you, your inner senses often recognize it before your logical mind catches up. That recognition is not imagination. It is the subtle intelligence of emotional connection. Think of it like two instruments tuned to the same frequency. When one string vibrates, the other can feel the movement even from a distance. So what happens next? This is the question that naturally arises when a hidden truth begins moving toward the surface. The answer is surprisingly simple yet deeply meaningful. The next phase involves alignment. The moment when your person finds the right opening, the right words, and the right emotional clarity to share what has been living quietly in their heart. When that moment arrives, it will not feel chaotic or overwhelming. Instead, it will likely feel calm, almost inevitable, like a conversation that was meant to happen all along. But do not rush the unfolding of this moment. Some of the most meaningful revelations in life appear when patience allows the truth to arrive naturally. Imagine a story reaching the chapter where everything begins to make sense. The earlier scenes suddenly connect. The small details gain new meaning. That is the type of clarity approaching your path right now. The choice your person made has already set that chapter into motion. And here is something even more interesting. As the truth approaches the surface, your own perspective may start shifting as well. You might begin remembering past moments differently. Certain conversations might suddenly carry deeper meaning. Pieces of the puzzle that once seemed scattered may begin fitting together quietly in your awareness. This is not coincidence. It is the natural process of understanding catching up with reality. Right now, you are standing in the middle of this unfolding story. The decision has been made. The truth is traveling forward. And the connection between you and this person is gradually preparing for the moment when honesty finally steps into the open. Something huge is waiting just ahead, not in the form of drama or conflict, but in the form of clarity. Stay with this story a little longer, because the next part reveals what truly changed inside your person during the moment they made that decision. There was a realization so quiet yet so powerful that it reshaped how they see you, how they see themselves, and how they see the path between you both. And once you understand that realization, everything about this unfolding truth will make even more sense. And then something deeper began unfolding inside them, something they could not ignore no matter how busy life appeared on the outside. It started as a quiet realization, almost like a small light appearing in a room that had been dim for a long time. At first they tried to move past it. They told themselves it was simply another passing thought. But the more they continued with their day, the more that realization followed them. It appeared in quiet moments, in memories, in the spaces between conversations. Slowly they understood that what they were feeling was not temporary. It was clarity rising to the surface. This clarity brought them face to face with a truth they had been avoiding. For a long time they convinced themselves that staying silent was easier, that leaving certain emotions unspoken would keep everything simple. But the heart has its own rhythm, and eventually it begins asking for honesty. That is exactly where your person found themselves. They realize that the connection they share with you holds meaning that cannot be ignored or placed in the background forever. The realization didn't arrive dramatically. Instead, it settled quietly into their thoughts, calm and undeniable. During that moment, memories of you began appearing in their mind in ways they hadn't fully allowed before. Small details returned. Conversations, shared moments, the way certain interactions felt natural and real. These memories were not random. They were reminders of something genuine that had always been present beneath the surface. And as those memories returned, your person began seeing the connection from a new perspective. What once felt complicated suddenly started making sense. There was a moment, perhaps late in the evening or during a pause in their day, when they finally admitted something to themselves. They realized that avoiding the truth was no longer protecting anything. In fact, silence had only created distance between what they truly felt and what they allowed themselves to express. That realization changed everything. Because once someone acknowledges their inner truth, the path forward becomes impossible to ignore. But here is something important to understand. Recognizing the truth and sharing it are two different steps. Your person has already taken the first step internally. The awareness is clear. The decision has formed. Yet the second step, the moment of expressing it, requires courage and timing. They are thinking carefully about how to approach that moment, not because they doubt the truth, but because they understand how meaningful it could be once it is spoken. You may not see this process happening from the outside, but it is real. Your person has been reflecting deeply, considering what honesty will look like when it finally arrives. They want their words to carry sincerity rather than confusion. They want the conversation to feel genuine rather than rushed. This kind of preparation often happens quietly, in the background of everyday life. And this is where your role in the unfolding story becomes even more fascinating. Without realizing it, your presence has already influenced their awakening to this truth. Certain qualities about you. Your authenticity, your calm energy, the way you listen or understand things others might miss, have stayed with them longer than they expected. Those qualities made them pause and reflect in ways they hadn't before. Sometimes, when a person encounters someone who brings a sense of clarity into their life, it awakens questions within them. Questions about what truly matters. Questions about whether they have been honest with themselves. Your presence seems to have triggered that kind of reflection in your person. Not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in a quiet, thoughtful way that slowly guided them toward realization. As this awareness continues growing, you might begin noticing subtle shifts in their behavior. Perhaps they become more attentive in conversations. Maybe they pause longer before speaking, as if choosing their words carefully. Sometimes you might feel a deeper sincerity in their tone, even in ordinary discussions. These changes are not accidents. They are small signs that something inside them has already changed. Meanwhile, the truth itself is patiently waiting for its moment to be spoken. Think of it like a seed that has already sprouted beneath the soil. From the outside, the ground may look unchanged. But underneath, life is pushing upward, preparing to break through the surface. That is exactly where this situation stands right now. The decision exists. The awareness is growing. The expression of that truth is simply waiting for the right moment to emerge. You may wonder why you sensed something last night if nothing has been said yet. The reason is beautifully simple. When two lives share a meaningful connection, subtle shifts rarely remain hidden for long. Energy moves quietly between people, especially when emotions are sincere. Your awareness picked up on that movement. It recognized that something important had begun unfolding. And there is another layer to this story that makes it even more remarkable. The choice your person made did not only affect their thoughts, it also changed how they see the future. They began imagining possibilities that once felt uncertain. They started considering what it would mean to be more open, more honest, more present in the connection they share with you. These thoughts are still forming, but they are becoming clearer with each passing day. Stay present with this unfolding moment, because the next step in this story carries even deeper meaning. Soon there will be a moment, a conversation, a meeting, or a simple exchange, where the energy between you shifts again. When that moment arrives, something that once lived quietly in your person's heart will begin finding its way into words. And when those words finally appear, you may realize that the feeling you had last night was not just intuition. It was the beginning of a truth rising to the surface, preparing both of you for a moment of clarity that has been quietly approaching all along. And just when everything seemed quiet on the surface, another realization began forming inside them, one that made their earlier decision feel even more real. It was not a loud moment or a dramatic scene. It was subtle, thoughtful, almost peaceful. They began noticing how often your presence returned to their mind without effort. Not because they forced the thought, but because something about your connection naturally stayed with them. In ordinary moments, while walking somewhere, during a pause between tasks, or while reflecting on the day, your energy quietly appeared in their awareness. At first they tried to treat it as coincidence. After all, people think about many things throughout a day. But this felt different. The thoughts about you carried a sense of calm clarity rather than confusion. They noticed how remembering your conversations felt grounding. They remembered how certain moments with you felt authentic and unforced. Slowly, they realized these reflections were not random memories drifting through their mind. They were reminders of something meaningful that had been growing quietly in the background. That awareness brought them to an important understanding. The connection they share with you has been influencing them more deeply than they previously admitted. Sometimes people only recognize the significance of a bond when they pause long enough to reflect on it honestly. Your person reached that point. They stopped brushing aside their thoughts and allowed themselves to sit with them fully. And in that stillness, a new level of clarity appeared. They began asking themselves questions that carried real weight. What does this connection truly mean? Why does it feel different from others they have experienced? Why does your presence continue returning to their mind even when life is busy and distracting? These questions were not uncomfortable for them. Instead, they felt necessary, like stepping into a moment of personal honesty that had been waiting patiently for attention. And the more they reflected, the clearer their answer became. They realized that the bond between you carries authenticity. It doesn't feel forced, complicated, or artificial. Instead, it feels natural, like something that unfolded without pressure. This realization made them pause. Because when someone recognizes authenticity in a connection, they begin understanding that it deserves honesty in return. But honesty requires courage, especially when emotions are involved. Your person knows that speaking openly may create a moment where everything becomes clearer at once. Conversations might deepen. Feelings might be acknowledged. The dynamic between you may shift into something more transparent. These possibilities are not frightening to them, but they are meaningful enough that they want to approach them with care. Meanwhile, your own intuition continues quietly observing this unfolding process. You may find yourself thinking about this person more often lately. Perhaps small memories resurface unexpectedly, or you notice subtle emotional signals that make you pause. These moments are not random. They are simply part of the natural rhythm that occurs when two people's emotional awareness begins aligning with a shared truth. Something else is happening beneath the surface as well. Your person has started noticing the impact your presence has on their emotional balance. When they think about you, their thoughts tend to become calmer. When they remember your conversations, there is a sense of clarity rather than confusion. These small observations have quietly strengthened the realization they reached earlier. They are beginning to understand that your connection carries a kind of grounding energy they value. This understanding is gradually shaping how they view the future. They are no longer thinking only about the past or present moments you have shared. Now they are considering what it might mean to move forward with more openness. What would it feel like if the connection between you both were guided by honesty instead of uncertainty? What would change if certain truths were finally spoken out loud? These questions are not creating pressure for them. Instead, they are creating focus. The decision they made earlier is now becoming something they feel ready to honor. The only remaining piece is finding the moment where the truth can be expressed naturally. Sometimes that moment arrives during a conversation that suddenly becomes deeper than expected. Other times it appears during a quiet pause where honesty simply feels right. Life has a way of creating these openings when both people are emotionally ready to hear what needs to be said. You may notice subtle signs leading up to that moment. Perhaps the energy in your conversations becomes warmer or more thoughtful. Maybe your person asks questions that show genuine curiosity about your perspective. These small shifts are often signals that someone is preparing to step closer to emotional transparency. But the most remarkable part of this unfolding story is how calm it truly is. There is no chaos surrounding this truth, no confusion clouding it. Instead, there is a quiet sense of alignment slowly taking shape. The decision your person made was not impulsive, it was thoughtful, reflective, and sincere. Because of that, the moment when the truth finally appears will likely feel natural rather than shocking. Right now, both of you are standing just before that moment of clarity. The connection has already shifted in subtle ways. The realization inside your person has already taken root. And your own intuition has already sensed that something meaningful is approaching. So remain present in this unfolding chapter. There is no need to rush the story or search for answers too quickly. The truth that began forming inside your person is continuing to grow stronger with each passing day. And very soon, a moment will arrive where everything that has been quietly developing beneath the surface finally finds its voice. When that moment appears, you may realize that every subtle feeling, every quiet signal, and every reflection along the way was gently preparing both of you for the same thing, an honest conversation that reveals what has been waiting patiently to be seen all along.